clients and how we're utilizing it. And then also the new metrics that you need to start measuring beyond just what the traditional SEO and digital marketing metrics are. And then we'll also share some next step plans that you can start to implement in your organization as well. As far as our customer base goes, we've been in the practitioner role for the last 15 plus 20, almost 20 years. Now, OneIMS will be celebrating its 20th year anniversary come January. So we have seen mid-market to enterprise organizations go from obscurity to market dominance by having worked with us, implementing some of the strategies and best practices we've implemented for them, some of which we will cover, especially from an AI standpoint. We work with electrical component manufacturers, such as Layer Technology. We have companies that do private label packaging and cosmetic product manufacturing. We have companies that do custom print and print manufacturing for industrial organizations and businesses of all kinds. Metal finishing, injection molding, thermoforming, so many different verticals where our customers kind of do fall in. So we have breadth of experience working with so many different industries, so which gives us kind of a friend line view into what's actually working regardless of industry and what can be adapted across different business units and business markets. So if you stay until the very end, I'll show you several resources that you can get access to. We'll provide an AI visibility audit checklist that you can utilize internally to kind of do a self-assessment to see whether or not you're actually getting discovered in AI platform and what some of the gaps are. We'll also talk about how we can provide you much more of a deeper AI visibility audit for your organization and taking a look at your business, your competitors, as well as some of the competitors, as well as and what the gaps are in terms of keywords and topics and things of that nature. We'll make sure that you have access to that as well, and we'll talk about how you can get access to that. So before we get started, I kind of want to do a little pulse check on the team, the people that are here. We're certainly we're expecting a pretty sizable audience today. So the first thing we have is a poll. We wanted to kind of see how many of you here are actually utilizing AI in your day job, and then if so, how frequently are you using? So you should be seeing a poll on your screen right now. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that.
Pretty, wow. So you all must have been pretty panicked on Wednesday, I think it was, or Tuesday, when there was a ChatGPT outage in the morning. And I think I saw that across ChatGPT, Gemini. I don't think Gemini had the issue. I think it was mostly ChatGPT. Certainly, Claude also experienced some issues. So wow, I am seeing it, John. If you want to push that result out, it's pretty impressive. Almost 70, almost, wow. I see like majority of you are using it daily. That is a very sizable number there. So I think that just validated our point. I don't need to make you convinced that there's a seismic shift is happening, right? Because I think what we're seeing here is the big shift that we've ever seen from the digital marketing invention of digital marketing when Google introduced itself in the early 90s. People have been utilizing search as a means to discover, but what we're seeing even bigger than that is how people are discovering brands today. So I don't know how many of you are actually experiencing this. This is just so started to happen in the last year and a half or so, what we're calling the zero-click searches, where people make a search in platforms like Google, but then they get the answers that they're looking for in AI overviews, and then they're somewhat satisfied in that answer and not taking any step of actually browsing another website and then just moving on with their lives. So this is kind of that shift that we're seeing, and Sparktoro actually reported that it is expected to be somewhere in the range of 60% or more, and by 2027, we're seeing that trend to increase even higher. So what that has a big impact on businesses. So if you look here, what I'm demonstrating is just a result that you would see. Let's just say if you're a polybag manufacturing company and you're creating a lot of top of funnel content around what are the different type of polybag options and what to consider if you're looking to manufacture a polybag for, let's say, a food application like a organic food or a frozen food. Someone were to go search polybag packaging options. Traditionally in the Google world, your expectation was to see a bunch of list of blue links that shows all the manufacturers that specialize in polybags who's creating content. that is trying to educate the market about the different polybags options, right? You're creating content that are in the form of blogs typically. And if you look at the AI overview response that you get from AI mode in Google, you see a list of all the type of common polybag styles. And it's a much longer response than what I'm able to capture here on this screen here. And if I'm just trying to get an answer for what kind of polybags are out there, I'm getting the answer. There's no need for me to now click past and go look at any of the website and read a 1,500 or 3,000 word blog unless I'm deeply interested in learning more about that topic. And you'll see onto the right side is obviously Brown Packaging, Rapid Packaging, and Shore Packaging did a great job educating and feeding all the information that Google needed so that it can give us that quick answer right in the fingertip. Within seconds, I got the answer that I was looking for. Google now is reporting they have over 100 million of their active users are using the AI mode feature. And Google is the dominant search engine even today. They have on average 14 billion searches happening on a given day. So you can imagine that 14 billion searches, if the majority of those people are actually just gravitating toward the AI overview, you can expect to see a drastic decline in your overall click-through rate of people finding your answers in AI, in Google search results and coming to your website. So that is where the zero click is having a big impact. If our expectation was to drive traffic from a top of funnel content into your website, and then hoping that once they're on the website reading the blog and then giving them an opportunity to convert into a lead or even giving them some sort of a top of funnel offer, maybe a checklist or a guide or a resource to get them to convert into an inquiry, and then hoping that you can nurture them long term, that hope is going away. That plan is not working anymore because that top of funnel search is not driving as much traffic as before. So this is happening obviously in Google. ChatGPT is no different. They have reported to have 800 million active users. They just announced their Atlas browser maybe about 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. They're claiming that it's about 27% of the active users already installed the browser on their machines, whether that's phone or desktop, which means they're taking away that market share that Google had. And as you mentioned, right, majority of you are already using AI platforms. And if you're starting to go to ChatGPT browser to make all of your search and do all your research and planning and analysis, that means that there you go. Some of that search is also going through ChatGPT. And then when you look at ChatGPT, it did not even give me the sources. It literally just gave me very similar answer as AI mode in Google. So this shift is very drastic, and I'm not sure how many of you are actually experiencing a decline in your overall traffic, and we'll have a poll just to try to get a pulse check on what you're observing on your end there. So the question you might be asking, okay, what has changed, right? In the past, when it came to Google organic, and when it comes to SEO or search engine optimization, the primary focus was keyword, right? You focus on the target keywords that your prospective customers would be searching, and your goal was to track the organic traffic growth from those keyword position improvement in Google search results. And then the measurement was, hey, have we seen a lift in our organic traffic? That was the kind of the measuring rod to see if we were heading in the right direction. A couple of the tactics that you've implemented was, hey, create a lot of blogs and then making sure that you're really quality backlinks from reputable sites, whether that's industry journals or other reputable sites where you can get the link. And the primary channel, right, where you got most of that traffic was from Google. That was that, right? And since the inception of ChatGPT and obviously just the proliferation of the amount of LLM platforms that are available for people to use on a day-to-day basis, the shift we're seeing is going away from a traditional keyword focus strategy to more of a content and what we call like a brand and brand identity and brand mention as the primary focus. Measurement is no longer is based on keyword position or a keyword ranking. It's based on the number of time your brand is being referenced in an AI response. And then also you're no longer just focused on backlinks. You are obviously trying to figure out how can I get more content created that's across the entire customer journey. You're creating content of different type. And lastly, you're not just putting all your eggs into Google basket. You're now having to make sure that you're getting found in ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and Perplexity, and every other platform where people are consuming information. So this is drastically different, right? We're having to be, especially as marketing and business leaders, we got to actually think about all these different platforms. How are we even perceived by all these platforms, and whether or not we actually have any visibility in those places where people are consuming information and browsing and researching content. So we're trying to redefine the word SEO or search engine optimization to look at it from a perspective of a search everywhere optimization. It's no longer just optimizing to get discovered in Google. You have to figure out how do you get found across all the platforms that people are using today, right? And you might see people using different interchangeable name for this practice of optimizing for AI platform. AEO is being primarily one, answer engine optimization. You might hear people say generative engine optimization or GEO, or even AIO, AI optimization, and some are even calling it search answer optimization. So you will hear people kind of alluding to it in different ways, but ultimately all we're trying to do is how to make sure if people are utilizing AI platform to discover, find out, analyze information and determine what kind of a business solution they should consider implementing in their company, we have to be discoverable, because if we're putting all our eggs into the Google basket, we don't know how long Google would have. And I'd never been in my life thought that a giant dominant player in the market would be a challenge to buy some up and coming companies like ChatGPT. But that trend is showing that there's certainly some valid case here for people to start thinking seriously about optimizing for AI visibility. So goal again is no longer we're focused on just keyword ranking or topic alone. We're thinking about as a brand as a whole, how do we make sure we become trusted authority in the market for a specific subject that these AI platforms will take note of it. And we'll get into some of the tactical ways that you can execute that. So this is what I want to make sure that you walk away with, right? So this isn't just some head knowledge that I want you to gather. This shift is certainly having business impact in the world. If you just stay stagnant, most of the manufacturing and industrial companies are typically notorious for being kind of laggards when it comes to adapting new things. But this is one of those trends where we cannot stand still. You have to be proactive in figuring out what actions are we going to take as a business to make sure we're getting discovered in AI platforms? Are we measuring the right right way to know that if we're actually making progress, and how is this impacting our business, whether or not in a positive or negative way, based on whether or not you're appearing in Google results, AI results. For us at OneIMS, none of this is actually foreign to us. We've been preaching this whole model of what we call our growth formula framework. It's never a one size fits all strategy. You need a cohesive strategy across the entire customer journey on how you educate the market, entice them to take the next step in the buying process, and nurture them all the way through their customer journey, even after they become after they become a customer. How do you continue to stay relevant in their minds, right? So in our world, we've always said, right, you have to have strategy in place of, if you take your total addressable market, let's just say if there's 100 companies that you can sell to, at any given, only 1 to 3% of that addressable market in a buying cycle. The rest of the 97% of the people are just going through their daily job. They're probably in the research mode, they're trying to learn, but they're not necessarily in a buying cycle. So when you think about the customer acquisition strategies, you want to put as much effort as possible, if you're in an established market, to focus on the in-market audience and capturing that demand while they're in a buying mode. And then you need to be spending as much, if not more, energy to educate the 97% of your audience who may or may not be in the buying cycle, right? That's where we call creating problem awareness, solution awareness, brand awareness, which is ultimately who you are as a company. And this AI visibility and discoverability is definitely falls more into the awareness area, and certainly has some impact on demand as well, because sometimes AI platforms are recommending solutions, or people are just taking that word and immediately taking action on it. So for us, the entire growth blueprint, the growth formula framework takes into account what we're discovering, what we're sharing in terms of AI discoverability. And most of what we're talking about is going to be primarily focused on how do you create awareness in the market, primarily through the AI discoverability platform, and then also how do we get found when people are actually searching for a product or a solution or a provider, so that you can capture that demand also in the AI platforms. With that, we'll do one more poll. This is obviously just to get high-level overview of what some of the business challenges that you are seeing based on some of the things I've shared in terms of the decline in traffic with a zero-click, and then a few of the other things that we're seeing as a common trend. But also going into 2026, what are some of your challenges that you're looking to address? So I'm seeing the polls coming in. So I'm seeing a lot of competing responses here. John, if you want to put this poll out publicly, or if you're able to show that. So traffic decline is certainly one of the challenges that people are experiencing. There you go. And then hard to differentiate is being another priority. And if for differentiation is a challenge, it's certainly going to be a big impact on your AI visibility for sure. We'll touch on some of those things. Not sure where to even start. So hopefully this webinar will give you some context on where you can invest. AI assistant do not seem to reference us, which is hopefully the content that we're sharing. You're going to see why you're not being discovered in AI platforms. And you will have some practical steps that you can do immediately to get found in AI searches as well. So with that, I will hand it over to Maria so she can kind of talk through practically what this means for your business and how we can actually overcome this challenge.
Great, thank you. So yes, so now, we've heard all of this. What exactly does that mean for us, and what should we be doing as companies, right? So let's just, again, go back to what we're all used to and what we all know, right? So before any of the AI, tools coming into play, we were all used to this, right? We would go to Google, do a search, we'd see a couple of websites, we'd pick one, go to that page, read what's on it. If we liked it, maybe there was a quote request or a contact form we filled out, and then we rinse and repeat until we're happy, right? So you go to the next slide, Sam. What does that look like? We've talked about that funnel, right? That we've always thought about is here's the content we should have, right? So the traditional funnel always focused on, hey, we need to address people at where they're at in that buying stage, right? So we would create blogs that are top of funnel, right? Well, maybe just looking for options, solutions, ideas. It's like, what's the best, filling equipment for such and such? What's the best bag? What's the best process for manufacturing ABC, right? And initially, again, you'd create blogs and you'd visit, several websites. And again, at this point, you've understood, oh, here's, top level information about my topic. Then, now once we're a little more educated, now we've determined maybe there's some options. Okay, well, now I've narrowed it down to this versus this, and now we're getting a little more technical. We're reading white papers, maybe some technical sheets, spec sheets, different things. And then finally, the decision stage. Now we've narrowed down to maybe a particular brand of equipment we're looking for, or a very specific type of machinery, something that we're looking at. We'll maybe ask for quotes, maybe warranty details. Again, we're pretty much in that buying cycle, right? But if you think about this whole process, this whole thing is taking us 2 weeks, a month to do, right? Because remember, that process that we saw of you do a Google search, you go to the website, you read, you evaluate pages, you submit a form, all of this, times, 5, 6, 7 different sites you're doing, it takes time, right? So, not only for you, right? You're having to, to make the time to visit, read, do all this stuff, determine which sites, which companies you want to reach out to, get that call back, and so on and so on, right? So that's kind of what we were used to, but let's fast forward to today. What does that look like with the advent of AI, right? So we're no longer necessarily going to Google and going to all these websites. Now you're going to go to your AI assistant of choice, ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever you're using, right? And now, what you're going to get is basically all that research done for you with companies, with options, all in one, especially with, if it's review sites. And now you're going to get your nice little list of here's 5, 6 options for you based on what you've told me, and your research is done, right? And how long does this take us? Probably about 5 minutes. And that's the big shift, right? Where, again, something that, again, our funnel and how long that initial search to initial sales conversation happened could have been weeks, months. Now this is something that is being shortcut by AI, right? So the new funnel, now that we're using AI tools to help us with this, right? Now you're seeing that, again, we don't start with just a keyword like best filling equipment for ABC or best filling equipment for viscous liquids. No, now you're saying a whole slew of information to the AI platform to help you cut down that whole research. So again, now you're going to tell them, what are you looking for? Yes, we're still looking for equipment, right? But now you're giving them context on who you are, what you're looking to achieve, all of this, right? And you can see here just this example of a prompt, right? It custom tailors everything, and then it's going to give you that recommendation based on, again, size, equipment, what you're looking to do, pretty much again in a couple of minutes. And you no longer have to go to all those websites and do that research on your own and do that validation and do all that whole process of narrowing down your results. And that is one of the biggest changes that we're seeing, and something that we need to get used to today.
And the alarming thing is, obviously, people are trusting that information from AI for what it says. And they're not necessarily validating that information on their own. Most of the time, they're like, okay, AI did this research, compiled all the responses, and gave me some recommendation. I'm just trusting this and taking action on it, which is certainly short-circuiting that customer research process. And also, the trust factor is really high because they're under the belief that AI has done all of that analysis in the background. So what we're also seeing is that average keyword length went from 2 or 3 keywords. We always talked about long tail keywords and how to get optimized for long tail keywords was mostly done by long tail blog topics. But people are now putting 25, 30, 50 words into a string of as a query, and then they're trying to get a narrow down answer. And we're all learning prompt engineering in the process, right? We're refining our query with all the context we can provide about who we are, what we're looking for, which ultimately is giving us the much better response. And people are taking it for what it is and taking action on that information and moving on with whoever the supplier that AI recommended. So with that, I wanted to do a quick poll again, just to make sure that we're keeping check and keeping you engaged. If you can give us a feedback on these things that you have in terms of which priorities aligns with your goals over the next few months. There you go. That's very rapidly. Everybody wants AI visibility, Maria, which is good. So I think you're in it for a treat. So we'll get into the specific on how we can do it. Obviously, that's been kind of the main goal here. So with that, I'll have Maria get back to explaining the framework that we're using to help you get discovered.
Perfect. Yeah. So now that we've talked about all the things that are changing, right? Well, what do we do about it, right? And what are all the aspects that we need to look for, right? And the things that we need to implement if we want to be successful at being found on these AI engines. So we have developed a framework that we're using with clients to make sure that they're well covered. Still, obviously Google is still very important, but again, now the new advent of, are we actually being found on AI platforms, and what does that look like? Are we put in a good position, good light, not so good light? So our framework, shortened to MAPS, really it's one to be discovered, right? And then to be that trusted source, to be that recommended supplier, company, product, whatever it is that your business does. That's ultimately the goal. And it starts with modeling your buyer's intent, and we'll talk about, how this works. Answering things clearly, proven plays, and then structuring and staying fresh, meaning your content has to be well structured and fresh. So if we get to the next slide, Sam, you know, modeling buyer intent. This is probably something that you have seen before. We've always talked about personas, right? You probably have done maybe a persona exercise internally if you've done marketing in the past, especially digitally, for your company. And you might have those buyer personas out there. They might be getting a little dusty, but it's time to get them out. And why is this important? Well, it's because again, AI tools are heavily reliant on what the user is inputting, right? And users, as we just saw from those prompts, they're no longer just giving you a generic keyword that we don't know anything about them, right? Now they're telling you a lot about them. They're like, hey, I'm such and such, plant manager at, this type of facility. We're looking for equipment that does this, or to integrate with a production line, or this is the type of food we're producing, or what we're manufacturing, or we need a cost. All of these things are telling us directly into that prompt. So it's really important that we go back to, again, those initial roots of who are our customers, who are these people that we are helping, right? what are the questions that they have? And again, going through that same funnel, or what are the things that they're searching for initially when they have a problem, when they're looking to replace equipment, when they're looking to add equipment, when they're looking to improve a process, manufacture something, right? So we have to address all those questions across the entire funnel. And, how do we, do this, right? So again, making sure that we know what they're asking and put those down. So if you go to the next slide, Sam, in practicality, what are the things that we have to do, right? Well, one, we got to start with our research of, okay, yes, we still need keywords are important. What are the things they're searching for? What are the questions they're asking, right? So people also ask, what are the other questions that, they might be asking your salespeople? Any prompt data, if you have access to any AI prompt data that might be helpful, going to social media and forums, maybe there's Reddit forums or such where there's, talking about, things that matter to your business or your products. Sales and support conversations. This is all really key. We always talk about aligning with sales and marketing. And, if your salespeople are speaking to your customers, they have a lot of valuable information in terms of what are the first things that they care about? What are the things that they're asking? Are they looking for maintenance? Are they looking for, how well it integrates with different equipment types? Are they looking for, is it a time frame issue? Is it, prototyping? What are all these things that are, coming up in the conversations? So if you can tap into your sales team, listen to conversations, transcripts of calls, all of that is really key to create that nice buyer's persona for that one individual. Now, the kicker is that you have more than one buyer persona, right? You'll typically have a minimum, probably three, maybe five, six, depending on the various services that you offer or products. So that exercise, if you go back to that one slide, Sam, of figuring out what is this persona, right? Asking at each part of that funnel, now you have to multiply it times your 3, 4, 5, 6 personas. So again, it's not my buyer persona is John, and he is a 40-year-old person in a manufacturing plant, and he's in charge of, blah, blah, blah. No, now we also need to know, what is he asking? What is he looking for? What are the questions he has, and putting it all together and sharing it with the rest of our organization so that we can address those things, not just at the sales conversation, but also with our content and with everything else that we have on our website.
Yeah, one thing what Maria was mentioning about the sales conversation, I'm sure most of you when joining calls, you've noticed how many AI note takers are joining these sales conversations. It's not just to get notes anymore. You also need to be gleaning for top of, top challenges that they talk about, top concerns that they have, top competitors they bring up, the integration requirements or problems that they're typically running into, because all that sales conversations are the topics that you could be creating content around. And like Maria said, for every persona, not only the persona, now you have to think about the product your product catalog, all the different variations of products and all the different combination of questions different persona might have about that specific product or your services or even the industries that you serve as well, right? So the combination is getting larger. So your opportunity to create content is not going down. It's actually giving you a lot more opportunity to create better content so you can attract the type of customers that you want to get in front of.
Perfect. So now, again, going back to now we know who we're speaking to, what they're asking, what's important to them, right? So the next thing is we have to answer clearly. And actually, this is even more important than it was with just Google alone. Google has always asked and promoted that we have to have good structured content, good quality content, helpful content, right? But Google is actually much better at parsing our content and understanding what's on those pages. LLMs are not as good. So if we're not clearly stating things on the website that we expect people to know, then they're not going to find us, right? So just think about, an individual, right? If we don't say on our website that we work with a particular application or a particular industry, how is, if a person can't figure that out, how can an LLM model AI that's trying to pull from your website find that information, right? So again, once you've adopted and you have your buyer personas and what people are asking, right? So here's the thing we have to do now, right? So create content around that. So looking here at just some of these specific prompts, some examples that we have from our tools, you can see that's very specific, right? Which steel processing equipments for heavy duty industrial work, right? CNC beam drilling machine cost, right? For fabrication shop, right? Budget options, robotic systems. All of these are very specific, right? It's not just steel processing equipment. It's no longer just the one keyword. Right now we're really making sure that, hey, do we talk about steel processing equipment for heavy duty industrial work? Do we talk about CNC machines for small shops? Right, so all of this is something that you have to start building into your content, and based on that there's different content that we can create to address all of this. So what is that content type? One, use case content is going to be critical. So again, if you're not talking about the application of your services or your products and industries, or if you're filling, whether it's food types or liquids, whatever it is that you actually do, you have to have all of that on your website. Comparison pages, passivation versus electropolishing. If you have different processes that they might be considering from a competitor, you must have those comparison pages. Integration guides. So again, whether it's equipment types, how do they integrate with each other into production lines, all of that has to be part of your content. And interactive tools. This one is even more important today because remember, tools like ChatGPT and AI tools in general, they tend to give you an answer and that's all you need, right? You don't need to go to the websites. But when we do have actual proprietary tools on our website, there is a reason for somebody to come to our website, right? So if we start building things that only we can provide, again, that still makes us highly valuable. So again, now your content is really going to make, span all of this on top of, your blogs and industry pages and other things that you might have already. But think about things that you may not be doing, like comparisons and guides and tools that really are going to be key to answering those questions clearly and, getting you found on AI.
Yeah, typically people are using alternative to. They're asking what can I use alternative to what I have today, and then comparison. Traditionally, in the industry and manufacturing sector, business leaders are very afraid of talking about their competitors, and even publicly talking about what's the pros and cons of working with you versus the alternative option. Software companies in general have always done it. Salesforce versus HubSpot. They create content and pros and cons and what's the features included and what's not included. This is one area where you have an opportunity to start creating content and control the narrative that the AI platform are learning from. Otherwise, if your competitors start writing before you do, they could be kind of training the AI platforms to believe whatever they have told it. So these are the type of content. And going back to what Maria said about interactive tools, as the AI platforms are mostly zero-click searches, if you have tools like product configurators, ROI calculators, or any sort of product recommendation engine, anything that you can build that are proprietary and useful for somebody to do their job as they're going through their customer journey of making a purchase decision, those are tools that would allow them to come to your website to have to use it, which ultimately then give you an opportunity to attract them to your site. So it's no longer just the written content anymore. You have to have a different type of content and ultimately serving across different type of industries and fields, right? You have to be able to tailor your message according to those personas as well. So with that, we have another poll. We wanted to see what sort of content that your company feels like you're falling behind in creating. And we'll love to see what people are thinking from a content type standpoint. And we didn't touch on videos. One, video is as an important part of this. You can start with a video and then transcribe it into blogs and pillar pages and other form of content. We certainly want different type of content, but most importantly, interactive and written content is very critical. All of the above. So seems like there's a lot of people are also thinking about ROI calculator, which is certainly a very, very highly useful tool because a lot of times salespeople have such a hard time conveying the value of why they should invest into whatever the product or solution that they're recommending. And if they have an interactive ROI calculator, they can use it in the sales conversation or even to send it to the customers as they're doing internal planning and planning and discovery, right? They can use that to plan on their own. So it's an extremely useful tool. We've seen that to have a very converting opportunity, because you can create an ROI projection calculator and give them an opportunity that says, share these results with your team, and then capture their email address along with the person that used the calculator, and then generate those leads and pass it on to your sales as well. So it seems like ROI calculator is definitely one, in comparison pages, and then all of the above for most of you. So I guess we have your work cut out. Start working on some of those content type.
Yeah, okay, and if I can spell correctly, we're back now to P in maps. Proven plays. What do we mean about this? And again, traditionally in SEO world, we talked about we have to get backlinks from reputable sources, linking back to our site, and all of that is so highly important, right? Now, the shift is too, LL models will actually pull from these, right? So the big important aspect of this is figuring out where are they going to pull these recommendations, right? What are they looking at? Because it's no longer, whether you show up number one in Google or not, right? Now it's looking at maybe there's articles that you can see here, right? It could be an article that cites here's the best, processes, the best packaging equipment. And guess what? If we're not listed there, we're not going to get mentioned, right? Because that's what they're trusting as a source of information for that particular prompt query, right? So what does that look like? That means that we need to understand what these LLM models are citing, right? Where are they going? What are the sites that they're looking for? And make sure that we're there, right? So that could mean getting reviews or being listed on industry relevant sites, mentions, that's still critical, right? So industry publications are still going to be important. If there's specific communities in the manufacturing world that you're in, aerospace, anything, medical device manufacturing, whatever you might be doing, you have to be there. And then again, make sure that you're continuously building those brand mentions. So for us in the manufacturing world, Sam, if you want to go to the next slide, here's what typically AI tends to look at. And again, this might vary depending on what specific manufacturing you're doing, but industry directories, anything industrial is still important. So think your ThomasNet, right? If you're not listed there, if you don't have a listing, and also not just having a listing, but is it complete? Does it have everything that you do? Does it have the right messaging about your particular company or services? That's going to be important. So it's no longer just, oh, we have a listing and it should be good enough, right? Before we cared about it, we have a link, we're good. Now it's we have a listing, but it says everything we want it to say. Trade publications, so manufacturing.net, Modern Machine Shop, all of these that might fall into, again, the industry that you're working with the most, we have to make sure that we're there, right? So they might have particular listings. We might have an opportunity to submit an article, a byline, anything like that is going to be important, right? Any business credibility site. So again, people might look at how well is this business to work with, right? So they might look at your Better Business Bureau rating. They might look at, are you listed with the Chamber of Commerce? Different things that, again, validate that you're a good company to work with. General business and media, again, anything that you might be, your CEO or founder may be able to publish content, be seen as a leader in your industry. That's important. Community forums, again, it might be a Reddit, it could be different things within the industrial world that you have to be participating, right? So make sure that we're influencing some of those conversations there. And again, anything that we're doing with Google, we have to continue doing all of those best practices. And there might be an opportunity for you to be listed or mentioned on government and standard sites if you've been first to get credited for something, if you've participated in studies, things like that. And again, if we're lucky enough, we might have a Wikipedia or similar page out there. But again, it's the first step is understanding where these AI tools are referencing. What are the places that they're going to pull data from, right? Where are they finding these recommendations and seeing, hey, are we there or are we missing, right? If we're there, okay, great. Are they listing us in a good manner? Are we the number one recommendation there or maybe not so good? And obviously, if we're missing, we have to make sure that we figure out a way to actually get listed there. Because again, if they're going to these sources and looking for us and we're not there, we're not going to get the recommendation. We're not going to get that response that we're looking for. And we're missing out on that potential customer in the near future because we weren't found.
Yeah, one of the big shift that we also saw back in the day with SEO, the backlinks had to have a hyperlink linking back to your website. With AI platform, just your brand mentioned in a post or an article, it's able to dissect that information and just know that that is your brand. So it's super critical that you're getting brand mentions like the Maria showed the listicles, like the top 10 metal fabrication machine shop or whatever, those sort of content. And then also finding opportunity to contribute content from your organization to these industrial journals and other publications. Those will give you an opportunity to get mentions from those publications. And it's very difficult to get, obviously, on OSHA or any of those platforms. That's where maybe if you create an ROI calculator or some sort of an industrial research report or anything that you put together that is valuable for the entire industry, those will give you opportunity to get recognized by obviously government entities, and then hopefully that will provide them a reason to mention you or link back to your site as well. Wikipedia is certainly not an easy one to get, but if many of you are public companies or get acquired, those are also opportunities where you can then start to get Wikipedia pages created. Or if you have some very, very historical company that's been around for 100 years, those are also ones a little bit easier to get a Wikipedia page created for.
Okay, so now we're at the end with S, structure and staying fresh. And this is very similar to what you might have heard in the past about Google. And it's all about making sure your content is properly formatted and on your site. So if you've heard about semantic HTML, your H tags, the structure of your content, clean URLs, all of these things are still highly important, right? So if you have a website that hasn't been refreshed in, I would say, the last 3 years, you're probably having a lot of issues that you probably want to resolve. Because if you don't make your content accessible, then again, you're losing out, right? If your content's not accessible to AI bots, to Google bots, then they're not going to be able to figure out what's on your pages, right? So this is really critical to make sure that every page on your site is properly structured. So everything from top to bottom, do we have our header tags correctly implemented? If we have FAQs, right? What does that look like? We have implementation of schema markup so that it can easily understand the type of content on those pages. So if we have videos, images, all of that has to be properly implemented. It's not enough to just, hey, we throw it in a page and it's all one big giant content page. No, we have to make sure that it's all properly implemented. And again, think about everything else. How fast does this page load? Is it all properly tagged so that not only Google but AI models can actually get to these pages and parse your content? Because if we're not doing this, you might have good content, but if they can't access and really read through what you have on your page, then it's might as well be sort of invisible because they can't get to it. So again, if your site is, again, maybe outdated, if your CMS isn't, one that you can easily update, scale, and push up new things to it, then maybe it's time to consider, hey, we need a website and a CMS that's actually going to help us do this and do it in a way that's easy to implement and doesn't require, tons of technical work each time you want to, say, add a blog or things like that. Um, so again, the better and more explicit you are with the content you have and how you add your content, it's going to be even more important. Because remember, Google has been around for a while. They're able to pick up a little bit more, but again, AI tools are not as sophisticated, at least yet. So we have to even be extra careful about how we implement our content in order for it to be accessible to those AI bots.
And I know we're kind of coming upon here to the latter half here. We have one poll that we wanted to see based on all the information that you've seen and also all the analysis that you're doing internally there. How would you kind of rate yourself? Let's see what everybody thinks about their visibility and strength. And then we'll talk about the new KPI. Moderate being the leader here. So occasionally showing up, which is good. That it means the AI platforms are starting to discover you. I saw Drew saying AI platforms are naive. It is true. There's a lot of the old tactics are kind of starting to work. Just writing your own content, saying the best packaging machine company, whatever. I think there is a possibility of some of that happening, but I know AI platform is also rapidly learning. That's why they're using this validation framework of looking at what else, what other people are saying about you. So we didn't really get into the weeds with reviews in the manufacturing and industrial sections, industrial sector. You don't have a lot of websites where you can get reviews from your customers. It's only Google My Business page is probably the most relevant. But if you're in the software space, they have Capterra, G2. There are several software review websites where people are actually going and putting their personal experience of working with that platform. So sentiment is an actual factor in the AI world. In our proprietary tool that we're using, we actually track the sentiment from a customer. So if people are talking about it in Quora or Reddit, they ask, what's your experience working with this machine? And then if you have a lot of negative responses there, oh, I had a lot of issues with this, that negative sentiment does work against you from a visibility standpoint. So you do want to monitor what people are saying about you. Yes, you can probably try to create content, and you can certainly create, buy and own certain websites, and you can publish content talking about all good things about you and linking back to your parent company. Several of those tactics can work in the short term, but ultimately you don't want that short-term gain. You want to definitely build the authority and trust in the marketplace. So answering the questions properly and creating and publishing them with the proper technical, and then also getting your name mentioned in industrial publications and general websites where you can actually get people to talk about you. That's what you want to focus on. So majority of you are saying moderate visibility in AI platform. All right, Maria, let's talk about the new metric.
Okay, perfect. So again, before AI, what were the things that we were looking for, right? So if you had an agency working with you or you had an in-house person, what are the things that you were looking at? Well, how's organic traffic doing, right? Are we getting more visitors to the site? Yay, nay. Keyword rankings, are we the number one for this query, or are we in the top 3, top 5, page 1? Backlinks, right? How is that authority score, going on for us? Like increasing, how does it compare to competitors? Time on site, we'd look at, hey, people are coming, they're staying, so they're finding what they want. All of these are still good metrics, right? But it's changed. So what are the things that we're now looking at when we're speaking, AI, right? Well, first of all, I know we had quite a few polls and AI visibility, right? So if you were to look today, right, think about the services you have or the products you offer or manufacture, does your company come up when you do those searches, right? Hopefully, yes. But if not, then we have lots of work to do, right? So first steps is visibility. Do we have visibility? And also think about there's not just one AI tool. Before we used to think about Google, and yes, Bing, but not as much because we know Google dominates the search world there. But now there's all these AI tools and they all work slightly different. So we might have visibility in one, but not all of them. Brand mentions. Again, are there enough brand mentions out there about our company? And again, so something that you have to be careful about, is it good brand mentions? Is it not so good brand mentions? And consistency, right? So is our company cited always with the right name? Is it not? If you went through acquisitions, if you've done different things and changed your name over the years or dropped a couple things, you go by your abbreviated name versus your full company name, all that's important, right? Citations. So again, all of these places where AI tools are referencing, that type of content or company type or process type, are we there, right? Maybe, maybe not, hopefully. Share a voice. And again, something where we can look at our competition and say, where are we, maybe not doing as well? Do we have certain competitors that tend to dominate a lot of these, recommendations? So what does that look like? If we go to the next screen, Sam, we measure internally for clients a lot of this, right? So again, things like AI visibility. Of course, we want to know, are we the prominent recommendation when somebody goes to an AI tool for our given industry, service, product, etc., right? And also the platform type, right? Oh, look, ChatGPT seems like we do much better, but Google AI, we got to work on a bit more, right? So now that gives us work to do per platform. And again, the results will vary per platform. So Perplexity might be pulling different pages that they're citing that were not listed or they're totally different than ChatGPT, right? So again, thinking about per platform visibility, that overall visibility, what are they, sharing about our site, right? How many of our pages are they actually referencing? How many different types of questions are we actually pulled into and which ones are we totally missing on, right? what is that share of voice? If we put all of our competition in there, do we show up most of the time or partially? Who of our competition is actually dominating those conversations, right? And where do we rank? Because also think about if you are putting in a prompt into one of these AI tools, right? It might give you, here's the top five. You might be the fifth one, right? And again, most of us will start with the top, right? And that alone might give us something to do, right? Because it's not just enough to get listed, but also are we the top or the best or the first listing or recommendation they provide. So again, looking at these metrics is going to be, key going forward. So it's not just our traffic and our keyword rankings and how's our backlink profile and our authority looking, right? But now it's also, hey, are we being seen in AI tools, and how do we vary from tool to tool? What placement do we have in those prompts? Who is dominating in those recommendations or those answers? And what do we have to do in terms of, where are we missing, right? That'll give us plenty of work to do in terms of content we might need to address, placements we might need to address, or brand mentions that we might need to address. So if we go to the next slide again, if we go back to our, maps framework again, think about starting from the beginning. Who are we selling to? Who do we work with? Who are our customers? What are the things that they're asking? What are the things that they need? Where are they going for answers? Again, we need to figure that out, whether it's from sales conversations, internal, things that you might have, listening to calls, all of this so that you can have a much more robust buyer persona, right? So it's not just, again, the original, but now expanding it into specific queries, questions, challenges, all of these things that they're actually looking for. And then again, doing your research based on that. Again, you might be doing research about keywords, prompts, ask questions, all of this, and answering all those questions, addressing all of those things on your website clearly, meaning, you don't take a roundabout, you don't assume they'll figure out how to read that. You really have to publish all of that content, whether it's comparison pages, FAQ pages, how-to integrations, all of those right on your website in order to be discovered. And then proven place, right? Again, once we understand where these AI tools are going to fetch this information, why they're saying this is the best injection molding company in the New Jersey area, right? Is it because you don't have as many reviews as your competitor? Is it because you're not listed on such and such directory and they are? So understanding all of that will give you an opportunity to go and fix those things, right? So now you know that, hey, we need to get listed on such and such directories. Some might be paid, unfortunately, but understanding that is going to be key, right? And then working through all of that, getting those brand mentions, again, is going to be really, really critical here. Being part of conversations, maybe it's Reddit, maybe it's industry specific niche forums. You have to be there, right? Because if we're not going to be found. And then S, again, structuring your content and keeping your content fresh. So anytime that you're thinking about adding content, specifically, if we're creating new content, right? Again, let's make sure that we do everything correctly, because otherwise we're not going to get the value or the full benefit of creating all this content if we're not structuring our content properly. We're not doing all our technical due diligence. So again, if your website, you've been having issues for a while, I think it's time to reevaluate and make sure that, hey, we are able to properly add our content to our pages. It's semantically correct. It's got all the schema based on the content we have, FAQs, videos, whatever you might have in there. Everything allows us to properly expand the content, add pages, interlink, make sure that we have, our robots text file all working properly, our XML sitemap all figured out. All of that has to be done properly so that you will still win at Google. It'll still be helpful, but also even help more today where these AI tools are, leaning into a lot of these things to be able to crawl your site, index what's on your pages, and figure out what content we have. So again, maps for short, but again, starting again, just going back to the basics with your buyer personas, addressing all the questions they might have, and again, full funnel. Not, again, it's not just about blogs, It's not just about, a form at the end, quote request. It's addressing everything that they might be looking for, comparisons, maintenance, differentiation, anything like that. Process differentiation. How does this process better than that process? You want to do that. And then finally, making sure that content is properly set up on your site, and then try to get as many of those placements across the web and brand mentions.
So hopefully you realize that it is definitely a monumental task, but it could be solved. And it certainly does utilize some of the best practices of SEO, but it's looking at it from a completely different perspective. One thing also, I just wanted to highlight the different LLM models within the same platform also has completely different results. So between the ChatGPT's different models alone, you will see some inconsistency in on how you might be being mentioned in the platform as well. So there's going to be some issues with that. So kind of like what we mentioned, we're using several proprietary tools and third-party tools to do these analysis and audit for our clients as we're doing the strategy development and implementation. It's actually giving us all the gaps that they have in terms of content gaps, where the competitors are outranking them, and where is the opportunity for gaining momentum and ground. That's where we're seeing the biggest opportunity in the industrial manufacturing sector, because obviously most manufacturing companies are kind of laggards. They don't adapt some of these things much early on in the process. So if the companies that are taking action on this today, they're much more likely to succeed and grow in the days ahead. So with that, I wanted to kind of give you some resources here. So first and foremost, we have an AI readiness checklist that you can download. My colleague John kind of chatted some of these resources in the chat here. You can either scan this QR code or go to the URL that you see here. That checklist actually gives you pretty much the entire MAPS framework, so you can go through and verify: do we have comparison lists? Do we have FAQs? Are we putting case studies? Do we have any interactive resources? And then looking at the technical issues that you have, and the content topics, and even a template for your persona build out. So all of that is there, so you can do a self-assessment and maybe do that as an internal project with your marketing team or even leadership. So I highly encourage you to do that. But we also wanted to give you an opportunity for us to be part of that journey with you, to do a deeper discovery of your AI visibility. So we have several tools that we invested into, and we made our own proprietary research tools to analyze your current online visibility on AI platform across ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, and Claude. And we can look at your AI visibility gap, what percentage of your brand is actually showing up your total pages that are being indexed and crawled, and what are the sites your competitors are being mentioned, so you can go and try to get mentions in those websites, whether they are actually publishing on there, sponsoring content on there, or even just have their brand as a directory listings there. So this will give you a tremendous visibility into what you need to do for the next 6 to 9 months from a content creation, online technical optimization of your site, as well as opportunity for getting brand mentions to other websites. So we want to make that offer available to you for being here today and being part of this webinar. Typically, we will charge a lot more for some of our existing customers who work with us. But for being here, we have a special discounted offer that's actually only for just next week, and you will have more information about this in the chat there. So if you use the promo code AEO1125, which is the webinar date, you can have that AI visibility audit. Like I said, we'll do a complete deep analysis of your existing website using several tools that we have, find the gaps, to give you a recommendation on what topics you need to create content. Also finds everywhere your competitors are being mentioned, so you can take advantage of getting proactive with getting brand mentions on those publications, contributing content, and also focus on what you need to produce from a content standpoint to make sure that you are capturing as much of the market share as possible. So we're just out of time, and I didn't think we will have a lot of time to answer questions. If you have any questions, feel free to send our way. And again, scan this QR code, and you'll also see my opportunity to submit some form on the landing page you are seeing there. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you so very much, and we'll see you on the next webinar.